Well, hi there and welcome. I'm Bruce. This is Speed and Color. Today's episode, I had a lot of fun putting this one together. Two really great guests on this show. Patrick Lambie, a hard copy magazine kind of guy. He's a photographer, he's a writer, a contributor, an editor, just does it all around magazines. And Luke Shaw, who is a digital guy, Google expert, really into the social media thing, sharp guy, has his own company doing a lot of digital type media work. These two guys together were very funny. We had a lot of laughs. I really enjoyed putting this episode together. So, you know what? If you got time, come on in, join us, relax, and I hope this is as much fun for you as it was for me. Hi, and welcome. Thank you for joining us here at the Speed and Color podcast and YouTube. What we're going to do on this episode, we have two guests with us. We have Harrison back as a co-host.
What's up, guys?
Cool. We have two guests who I guess I would say are in the media business, if you will. One is more hard copy oriented, the other is more of a digital guy. And the reason this came up is it just seems like lately there's been a lot of talk around magazines, there's lots of stuff going on Instagram. People are struggling with the social media thing, and the magazine industry is kind of volatile, let's say right now, or dynamic. There just seems to be lots going on. Shows are changing, advertising's changing, things have changed since the pandemic. It's kind of all over the board. And we thought this would be a good idea to bring a couple people together who are knowledgeable about media type stuff and just see where they think this is headed, how it works for the motorcycle community, how we can do things to, to take advantage of what's out there. And who knows, maybe we'll sow some ideas, things will work out, we'll have some fun.
Oh, we're going to have fun.
You figure we're having fun.
Oh, right? For sure, yeah.
So, first off, I'll introduce our digital guy, Luke Shaw. Luke, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. We are in Luke's shop, which I will tell you that this is winter time. Little cool in here. That's why everybody's wearing hoodies and stuff, but not bad. And as we said when we started this, we like getting out to people's shops and seeing what they're doing, what they're working on, and where they do that work. So we decided to come right out to Luke's place and do this. The other gentleman that we have with us is Patrick Lambie. Patrick has been with, at least one magazine. He's been a contributor, he's a photographer, he does a lot of stuff. He's more of our hard copy guy right now. So we'll talk to Patrick as well and see what he thinks. Patrick, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Anytime.
And I will start, gentlemen, by just saying that these podcasts are intended to be a casual conversation, interactive. Harrison and I do have some questions that we can use to try and guide the conversation. However, the people on the other side of those cameras and microphones really want to hear from you and not from the two of us. So if you have something that you feel you need to say about the topic, or heck, if you feel you have something you got to say, you go ahead and say it, and we'll let you finish, and then we'll bring it back on track with the questions. So the stage is really yours.
Perfect.
Let's get started. Patrick, if you don't mind, you don't need to go into a whole bunch of personal details, but give us a little history on Patrick, your motorcycling history, how it's evolved, what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I'm like a lot of people. I grew up riding dirt bikes. Evolved in street bikes as I got older, and then like a lot of people, you either start going to university or in my case, you get married and have a family. So bikes go away for quite a while, and there's probably that 10 to 15 year window. Wow. And then, you know, like a lot of people, there's that demographic that always comes back to riding. Yeah. And I was one of those people. Rode a lot on the street, did a lot of, like you were talking about, going to the States. Yeah. We've done those trips for years. Through that, I started fooling around with photography at the track, and had a magazine, actually Inside Motorcycles, called me and said, "Can we use one of your photos?" And I said, "Sure." I mean, I was thrilled.
I believe it.
You know, that kind of grew into where they started calling, saying, "Hey, can you go do this assignment? Can you do that?" And then it was like, "Hey, can you try writing?" So suddenly I had a regular column. And then it was like, "Well, hey, you ride. Can you go do a test here or there?" And then about 6 years ago, they called and said, "Could you fill in for our editor? He just quit with very little notice." And what was supposed to be a short-term gig is still going on 6 years later. Right. And then throughout that, I really don't ride on the street anymore. Okay. It has become, with all the distracted driving and everything, just scary. So for work, I ride on the street. If I'm testing a bike that needs that, I do it. Otherwise, I go to the racetrack now. Nice. So I work with a company called Hard Knocks, and we work here at the new track in Calgary, in Area 27 in BC, and it's that's kind of become my outlet for riding. You know, plus I get to ride a lot of cool bikes just for work. But for my personal riding, it's more on the track.
Oh,
how was that?
And that was great.
Good, okay.
And
so jealous.
And I think
That's
I
awesome.
heard you mention the other day, part of the reason you're not riding as much on the street now too is the condition of our roads.
Oh yeah.
And that's a pet peeve with me, and I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about.
Heavy suspension, you just clap right into there.
Or an old guy with no suspension.
That's
even tougher.
Stiff spine.
The condition of our roads here leaves something to be desired. So I imagine when you're in Los Angeles, things are a little bit better.
I was just there last week. The roads are spectacular. You get up in the mountain canyons; they're wonderful. And I have to say,
gotta dodge homeless people.
There was a few of that. The big thing there that I wish we could do among anything is lane splitting. Because we're on LA freeways, and you can get through. And it's not even about being timely. It's about if you're on Deerfoot in stop and go traffic, and you're at the back of the line, like your ass is just hanging there waiting for someone to plow into you. So every time I go,
air-cooled argument too. You gotta keep those bikes moving.
Absolutely.
Totally.
And it works there. They're dialed in. Everybody has it figured out.
Yeah. The cars don't get, like if you did that here, people would be swerving because you're trying to steal their spot. There they move apart for you.
Open doors on
the entitlement factor,
and it just works so well. So that's the one thing, every time I go there, I come back just so annoyed that something so obvious we can't do here.
Yeah.
Right on. Very good. Luke, why don't you tell us about yourself? I understand that you haven't been riding for all that long.
I haven't been on Harleys for too long.
Okay.
So this is my first year on Harleys. Similar to Mac's story in kind of the early episodes. Parents went out of town. I was 21, 22. They came home. I had a red R6. I moved it off the driveway onto the street so I could pretend it wasn't mine for as long as possible. And parents threatened to kick it over. They weren't too impressed, but I've been riding since. Probably 10, 11 years on crotch rockets, Ducatis, Suzuki's, Yamahas, Kawasaki's, kind of the full meal deal. And then got into Harleys pretty much for that trip to the States. I had a group of friends that go to the States every year for a big trip. We go for 10 days and pack up a bike, put your tent and everything on there, tent, sleeping bag, and live off the bike for 10 days. And doing that trip, I was hooked. Got 3 bikes last summer and was like, off we go.
I've seen you take your journey quick.
Yeah, it happened pretty quick.
Yeah.
There's no looking back.
Nice.
Patrick said that most people go to university or get married. I didn't either. I just road bikes to work.
Yeah, right. But by 3, like,
I'm the outlier, I guess.
yeah. It's a good way to be.
You gonna go ahead there?
Yeah, of course. Patrick, you're currently the editor of the Inside Motorcycle magazine. Tell us about this role and what that is to you, how that's been working out.
It's cool because as the editor, months before an issue comes out, you're deciding what's already going to be in it.
Yeah.
You're assigning stories. You're kind of trying to figure out what's going to work together.
Yeah.
And then it's then you got to pull it together. You kind of got to sell the publisher, who's got to pay for all the costs of the editorial and the photos and everything.
I didn't even think of that.
And then from there, they kind of give you, here's, the ads that are going to go in, and it's like building a jigsaw puzzle. If you got 72 pages, you figure it out. So that's fun. But, I enjoy, like, our contributors are, like, we've got Colin Fraser and Tony Sharpless and, people who are, like, Hall of Fame members and who have done things that I can just dream of. And you get to work with these people every day. Like Brett McCormick is one of our contributors who raced like World Superbike, and so it's a neat group and it's fun. And the biggest thing, and it sounds terrible, but it gets you access to things.
True.
I mean, like I was down riding, and and suddenly, I'm literally chasing Freddie Spencer through a canyon last week.
Sweet.
And every time we do a couple corners, he'd look back and give me a thumbs up.
Make sure you're still there.
It's just an experience that I don't know that I would have ever had without the magazine.
Yeah.
So in that regard, it's.
I got a question about that. So when you're planning a magazine, like obviously there's trends in the motorcycle world. So how far ahead do you have to look? Like you want that magazine when it comes out to be as relevant as possible. So how far ahead do you have to look?
Well, and that's kind of part of the topic is, there's a delay in getting the magazine out. So like if someone goes and has a press bike here or goes on a trip, they come back, they write their story, we build it into where it's going to fit. So like, recently there was a new BMW, the 1300 GS.
Right.
That'll come out a couple months from now.
Right.
And the challenge is all the guys who work for websites, it's been out for 2 weeks already,
Right.
kind of thing.
Right.
So you'd look ahead, but it's a bit of a game because you're at that disadvantage.
Right. Do you find your work like that? Like, are you chasing a trend or are you setting a trend?
Oh, that's interesting. I think
Yeah.
it's a little bit of both because,
Nice.
like the issue that Bruce has here had the KTM 1290, which was really, that was pushing the trend.
Right.
Because like if you go to, like when I go to the track now, there is more and more naked bikes at the track. Like
Right.
you mentioned like the R6s, they're
Yeah.
still there, but there's more and more KTMs and Ducatis that are
The monsters.
so the naked. So in that case, you're not necessarily creating the trend, but you're promoting it.
Yeah, almost like setting the tone a
Yeah.
little bit, yeah.
That's interesting. That'd
Yeah.
be hard to plan for.
Oh, yeah, and like, is it hard to be creative on that aspect too then?
Yeah.
Like, keep things interesting in the motorcycle article about like the new KTM coming out instead of just making it like super specific of like brand
Yeah.
specs?
Yeah, it's got to be, there has to be a story to it.
Yeah.
Like this one was, I was at Portimao in Portugal. So it was like the fastest I've ever ridden a bike.
Nice.
And again, you're chasing guys who are like so much faster.
Yeah.
But, so when I started the story, the hardest part of writing a story is that opening paragraph.
Right.
Like, it's because it's got to be a story. If you just start out going, the new KTM is ... People have fallen asleep.
Yeah,
on the page.
You're not catching me reading
So it's
that.
always, you do have to be creative. You got to have an angle on every story, and you don't want to just write the same thing that everyone else is writing.
Yeah.
So from, my perspective is like that was a number of years ago. So I was more on the beginning of my track day stuff.
Okay, yeah,
So
yeah.
it was more like, can more of a novice rider really handle this bike? And
Oh,
so-
trying to show that visual of it almost.
So it's a bit different angle kind of thing, other than just the same thing everyone else is writing.
Sweet.
When
Love it.
you're riding with people like that, is there, like obviously in the bike world, there's kind of understanding that you ride at your own pace. But if you're riding for a magazine with these pro riders, are you trying to keep up? Or have you had any close calls? Any funny stories?
No, I've actually never been to bike on a press launch. Oh no, I did. Sorry. It wasn't when we did the live wire, the Harley live wire, and we were down in Oregon doing it. And these things, well, they sound really cool. A lot of the time, it's hurry up and wait.
Right.
So they've got to find a beautiful curvy road, and you go down one by one, and there's like 10 journalists.
Oh, okay.
And then you stop while they reset all the photos, and we were waiting for them to say it's time to go. And there was I was beside one guy, we're kind of parked this way, and over here there's some guys over there talking. And one of them was complaining Harley made it. There was supposed to be like a throbbing in the seat to kind of mimic a V-twin.
Really?
And he was going, I can't feel it. And one of the guys, who I know really well, I won't say his name, he went over and said, well, you just got to turn the throttle a bit. And because it's electric, you don't know it's on. Oh. And it lunges forward.
No.
And the other guy, the guy who's on the bike, panics and grabs a handful of throttle.
Oh, no.
And these things are 100% of torque. So it launches like a rocket. He comes screaming right into me. No. And I go sailing into the...
Oh, no.
So we did write off a couple of live wires that
That's
day.
awesome.
But I wasn't actually riding it. But
corporate money.
Oops.
Yeah.
But there are, they want you to ride the bikes. And, like our off-road editor, those seem to be the ones where guys are more bidding bikes.
Right.
Like when he was on this new GS, there was a few guys laid it down. And that's what the brand doesn't want you there if you're not willing to ride it.
Yeah. You kind of have to get, for the whole story, you kind of have to beat the bike up and get the most out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So while we're on this topic, where do you get your skill for test riding or launch riding? You do something on the side.
Yeah, so I work with a track day company.
Oh,
so I'm one of their instructors now. So I've gone from being the novice guy who was, holy shit, this is fast, to now I'm actually one of the instructors.
Oh, okay.
So
you
that
hate people like me and Harry.
Yeah. This causing a ruckus.
So that actually gives me the outlet to get I get so much seat time on the track now. Like this year we'll do about 15 or 16 track days.
Oh, wow.
Plus then we'll go down this winter, we'll go down to California for 3 or 4 days of track time.
Right.
So it's all about seat time.
And you can you bring anything to the track so I can bring my Sportster?
I don't know if we've ever had a sports.
It's happening now.
We've had guys
it's totally happening.
The big thing has got to be roadworthy. It's got to be tight.
It's roadworthy. It's roadworthy.
And our big thing is no leaks. And as soon as I hear the word Harley and
wow, I'll put my sunglasses on. No shade.
That hurts.
No, that's good. I think that'd be really cool though to take the Harley out.
Yeah. Well, when you're one of the most popular things in the States right now is the King of the Baggers.
Yes.
So they're running in Moto America.
Yeah.
And Harley's even started running part of their lineup to have, the better suspension.
Yeah, the STs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
the inverted front ends.
Yeah. So
cool.
We've had guys come out on a Harley.
Okay, but not a Sportster.
But it actually leaked oil for the track.
Yeah.
So,
see, mine won't. I'll just glue everything together before and we'll go out. It might leak oil after I'm on the track though.
It'll leak something on the way
Yeah,
out.
it's gonna do something. Yeah, we'll trailer it home. Like we'll ride it there, trailer it home.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, Luke, starting your own digital company. Tell us about your adventure into that and what are you working on? What's getting you into it right now?
So I started with marketing kind of early to mid-20s. Actually started my own business and that was all athletic apparel and accessories, and I did the marketing for that, and then that grew into kind of friends with businesses asking me for help with their marketing, and kind of just grew from there. Been into kind of the technical side of web development, SEO, search engine marketing, kind of all Google services.
Okay.
Really getting into the bike world, especially the Harley world lately. Trying to do anything bike related.
Yeah.
Kind of a mix of the passion and skill is it's where I enjoy spending my time.
Sweet.
You were doing some work through the other company for a motorcycle manufacturer, were you not?
Right. Yeah. A lot of UX and UI. So UI is user interface, kind of what the person sees when they're on the website, and then user experience, which is kind of the journey that the visitor goes through the website. So that's a lot of kind of just the right call to actions in the right places, the right images in the right places.
Yeah, like keeping you entertained with the website.
Yeah. Make it a bit more of an experience to go through the website. So it's easy to navigate. Less people fall off, the better for the website.
Right.
You want to make it kind of as easy as possible for them to find what they're there to find.
Okay. Is that
And-
like? Oh, sorry, Bruce.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, were you doing that for several power sports manufacturers or just for one?
Just for one power sport.
And you can
It was-
say the name,
Yeah,
because
it
we've
was
said
Honda.
Harley, so yeah.
It was Honda Canada. So we did marine engines and power sports.
Okay.
So a bit of a mix. The power sports was obviously more fun. It was a massive website. Anything bike related is where I'd like to kind of lead towards.
Head towards for sure.
Cool.
I was gonna say, so when you're talking about keeping people on that website, can you see all that data?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You
So
can
it's like they're all analytics almost.
Yep. Yeah. So it's called a hot map. So you can see exactly where that person's cursor is, kind of where they're reading, where they're scrolling. You can see their entire journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So what's the number one mistake that companies make with their website?
Oh, that's brilliant.
Oh, just difficult to navigate.
Okay.
Just kind of unorganized and cluttered in some aspects. Like you want someone to land on that website and you want them to be able to say, kind of, this is why I'm here, this is what I'm interested in seeing, this is the information I'm interested in getting. How can I get there kind of with as little clicks as possible?
Okay.
Are you seeing that like come about through like advertising with Instagram? Are you putting like Instagram ads on your own posts to bring people to websites, like personally wise, or even for business?
I'm
Are you
not
seeing
doing
that come up?
for my own business. Google is huge.
Yeah.
Google, in a lot of cases, it's less money, more effective.
Okay.
I find Google, for anyone who goes on the internet, Google's usually step one. A lot of people obviously spend their time on social media, so for kind of e-commerce brands, it's a good place to be. You want to be seen. The rule of thumb is people need to see your brand 7 times before they recognize it. You can talk about it.
Yeah.
So being relevant on social media is obviously a huge part. But I find more for kind of the brands that I work with and the work that I do personally, I think Google's a better place for it.
Yeah. So you're not seeing like as much captured people from like say Instagram, Facebook.
It definitely happens. It's I think it's more of an e-commerce side. For people who are making kind of impulse decisions and business to consumer.
Yeah, I've bought a lot of weird stuff off Instagram
Yeah.
ads, that's for sure. Like, like you see it a
I've
few
never
times.
bought anything
I
off an
haven't either.
Instagram
Oh,
ad.
come on. You see a couple ads and you're like, I can use that, you
It's
know?
hard too when you do it and you understand the process of it, because you see those ads and you're like, oh, I know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
Now, out of principle, I can't click this ad.
You're just locked in, like not
Excited
happening.
about it.
Well, I think it's a great like starting point too to ask, like, since you've been into sport bikes and now you're just getting into Harleys, how have you seen that world like start to change for you, and like the demographic and the advertising, all that stuff can kind of be brought into perspective?
I guess my experience in sport bikes was more like, honestly, just being a delinquent.
Just speed.
Just going 250 everywhere.
Yeah. So you weren't like thinking
I
about
wasn't
gear.
thinking about how they're attracting more people. I'm not thinking about the brand side of it. I'm just trying to keep the rubber side down.
Yeah. 280, like.
In my own life, obviously demographics are wildly different. Harley's done such an amazing job with their brand. with their culture.
Yeah.
Like there's people who don't own Harleys who have Harley tattoos. Like
Yeah.
that's unheard of.
Wear Harley shirts.
You won't see that anywhere in the sport bike world.
True.
I don't know a single sport bike brand who has been able to do what Harley's done for branding.
Good point. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Like,
It was good. We go on our trip. We go on our trip in July, and 10 dudes on Harleys. Kind of every town we went through, we just get all sorts of creatures coming out and talking to us.
right?
And, so many times we heard like, "Oh, you guys are living our dream. Like that's what we want. We want to be on a Harley." And it's like there's something specific about the Harley.
Yeah.
We want to be
Yes.
on the Harley. It's not like, "Oh, I'd love to be on an Indian cruising around."
Yeah, true.
It's something about Harley.
It's a lifestyle thing,
Yeah.
and you know what we always say in the motorcycle business is Harley is really a marketing company
Yeah.
that just happens to build motorcycles.
Ain't that the truth?
And if you
Yeah.
talk to people
that's-
who've ridden a Harley and an Indian, you
Yeah.
get some pretty conflicting.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
a topic for
That's
a
for
topic
another
for
day.
something else. Yeah. Like.
Yeah.
you
Hey,
get-
I had a question for you, social media wise. So I follow you on Instagram, and you've been doing this cool thing with Instagram. Your posts all follow a theme or a format. And I heard from somebody that you had kind of set out to achieve something. You had set some goals for followers or whatever. Tell us about that, because I get a real kick out of your posts. I think they're
Yeah,
awesome.
they're
Or
different
reels
generations
or whatever
here.
they are.
Yeah.
Most of my posts are pretty stupid. I've cracked myself up making them. They're kind of just for a laugh. But when we took the trip in July, I committed to a good 6 months of trying to grow my Instagram, and I found a format that really works. Essentially, it's just a clip of being on a bike followed by a clip. It could be a podcast, it could be a movie, it's always funny. People seem to resonate with it. I think probably in the last 6 months, it must be over 20 million views on the reels, and it's not ideal for brands because a lot of it isn't that professional. It's funny,
Right.
but it's
Yeah.
not that professional.
Right.
But it's been fun for me. Like ideally, I would like it to grow to a point where I can get those brand deals. I can go on these trips to the States and offset some of the costs. I can
Right.
promote some brands along the way.
So what about followers? How many now?
It's still super low. Like I'm at like 5,000, but
But the views are
the
really
views are
strong.
crazy. Like I have
Wow.
a couple of reels and I have one reel that is like 2.5 million. I have a bunch in the millions. I don't really understand how my engagement's so high and my followers are so low, but we're just running with it. It's funny when you can look at all your analytics and you can see who, like followers and non-followers, who engages with the post. And it literally says 0 followers. And it's all non-followers who engage.
2.5 million people that don't
Right.
follow you.
It's hilarious to watch. But
Yeah.
I don't know, it'll grow at its own pace, whatever. It's just fun for me to do.
Cool. Good stuff.
So, quick question, because the big challenge to the motorcycle industry right now is, like, if you look at Harley, we always joke that you're kind of an anomaly. We kind of say, their customer base is dying. Sorry, Bruce.
The shade.
They have an aging
I
demographic.
could have done that statement without turning it.
But,
The hell yeah,
there's
brother.
this thing where brands are trying and failing to
Right.
attract new users. Big thing is, they go like, what's a clutch? What,
Right.
like, is the social media versus like online, is social media more effective at attracting this new demographic?
Yeah, I think you need, like, in any sort of marketing, you kind of need to go where the people you want are. And I think a lot of kind of the younger generation, they spend all their time on social media. And a lot of, I find a lot of the Harley kind of demographic that I relate to is kind of like
The stunt riders,
the troublemakers.
yeah,
you know, like the guys that are out having fun.
the provocative
Um,
people.
Not afraid of getting in a little bit of trouble. We're still splitting lanes in Calgary, even though it's not legal.
It's
and
true.
they're
Yeah.
just
Allegedly.
The allegedly. Yeah, I find that the Harley group that I resonate with the most are a little bit the troublemakers, and that's where a lot of my posts are. They're pretty. I don't know. Some are offensive. Some people would definitely find them offensive, but I think to attract that audience, you need to be in front of that audience, and that might be where people are missing.
Yeah.
Very good. I wanted to talk with you guys, and Luke, you may not be as well versed on this, but I wanted to talk about the motorcycle shows. Coming up, we've got Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary. We've heard a lot of different things about where the motorcycle show is at. It would seem that manufacturers have really pulled back. The pandemic was a huge reset for advertising. You know, we're just, everybody's trying to figure it out. And of course, you never want to stop advertising because you're not sure what it's doing for you.
Right.
But in this case, the pandemic forced everybody or gave everybody the opportunity to stop. And they stopped and went, wow, that didn't make a difference. So now we're coming at it fresh and have to find new avenues. And you know, if you're selling advertising, you have to find new ways to do that. So I just wanted to ask you guys, both of you, where do you see it going? How do you feel about the advertising, the marketing thing for motorcycles? What's going to happen? What happens with magazines? What happens with websites and social media?
Go ahead.
The magazine, and it's not just motorcycle magazines. You know, the reality is, you used to go to the airport and there would be like walls or shelves of magazines, and now there's like one little kind of the size of a door. And it's the same thing, you know, before there was, you'd go to Best Buy and there'd be racks and racks of DVDs, and just the delivery method of that information has changed. There was a manufacturer who I spoke to the other day, and they said they really don't know what they get when they advertise in the magazine. They know what it costs, but they can't put a number on it. With websites, they know exactly how many people clicked on their ad and clicked through. So it's not that, you know, and then there's the whole thing of, you know, for what it costs to place an ad in there, they can do so much to make sure they're number one, they're at the list when you go on Google and you type motorcycle and, you know, bang, they're at the top. So that's kind of kill. And then, you know, it's just the cost of paper, the cost of printing, the fact that everybody's already read it on their phone, you know, like we've become this on-demand society.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily object to it, but it is, there's that change.
Yeah, it's the trend. It's where everything's going. Like people spend so much time on their phones and computers and electronics. I think magazines still have a place, but like Patrick said, it's so much easier to understand what you're getting in return when you're advertising digitally.
Right. But what happens with physical shows? Like I've watched in the last couple of years, and I think, if anything, events are getting stronger, and there's more of them out there. Born Free not only does California now, but they do Texas as well. We've got some new Canadian events. Bad Living Roadshow is coming up. Support seems good. Things seem good. But now the motorcycle shows are going to be lacking manufacturers. It's not going to be the new motorcycle show anymore. It's going to be more of a custom local business kind of show.
I kind of like that.
How do you think this turns out?
That's a tough one. I don't know. I never really went to. I guess the only show that I go to here in Calgary is like the new bikes, new cars, new boats. I don't go to many custom shows. Obviously, those shows will all have their little corner where there's the custom shops and whatnot. But I think it's still important for those manufacturers to have a presence there. There's still going to be people there, but is it an effective use of their money? Who knows? I think with the digital world, like it would be cool to see, like we were mentioning earlier, like with the virtual reality, like if you can. I was saying to the guys earlier that a couple of the guys from Precision went to Japan.
Yeah, Moon Eyes.
They like to go every year, and there's a couple shows they really like to check out there. But with virtual reality and the technology we have, like why can't we visit those shows from our living room? I think that might be the next step.
Right.
Yeah, because the shows haven't evolved. I mean, just for work, I've been going to shows forever, as have you, and it's the same stick year after year.
Not this year.
but it has been, and like
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
you were
for
absolutely right. You know, COVID kind of was like, okay, there's no shows, and they were selling bikes like crazy. So they're going, you know, why? You know, as a manufacturer, to drag these massive displays and bikes and staff, it can range up to $1 million probably to do the shows or more. And it's like, again, if you take that money and deploy it effectively into other channels where you're reaching the people you
channels
want.
that you can measure.
Yeah, so I think the shows they haven't evolved. And so I'm not surprised that companies like, you know, Kawasaki and Ducati are going like, no, thank you. You know, we can do more with that money and reach the right audience. And in some cases, they don't have product to bring because there's still that huge supply chain.
That's a problem too.
Yeah.
For sure.
But yeah, I don't see the shows that are working are more of the kind of the grassroots social kind of things. Like, you know, when the shows were canceled, there was one here, one in Edmonton.
Right.
Huge success.
Yes.
But it was the local vendors, the local builders, the local clubs, and those I think will always draw people. You know, like Two Wheel Sunday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that seems to be a huge hit.
That's a great show.
Yeah.
But
Kickstart.
it's just more about awareness. It's not like
Right.
you're there trying to sell a bike. It's like, you know, making sure people are aware of your product.
Yeah, and building a community around it too, almost.
Yeah.
I think you're onto something there. Because I think I could touch on it a little bit. Like coming from the dealership world, we're going away from keeping things in the showroom and just keeping a lot of like putting money into the online side of things. So like people are now ordering vehicles instead of coming to the lot and sitting in them. Right. So then when they order
That's all about the audience too.
Right.
Like an older audience, they might want to go and touch it and feel it and sit in it and drive it and stuff like that. And they want to go to the car shows and they want to kind of meet the kind of people who are working for those brands and sit on those bikes. And now people just aren't. I think the audience that is like growing into who these brands need to approach. Yeah. Like the people who are like I don't know, maybe 10 years ago you're doing these shows and you're finding a lot of 40-year-olds at these shows. And then now they're 50 going on 60. They're not so much looking for a bike. You need to be going for the 20s and 30s and kind of establishing that culture and then approaching them where they already are so you can kind of grow your brand like that.
Right. Continue that wave again. Yeah,
and I mean, everybody, like, I bought a truck last year. I did all my research online.
Yeah.
You know, you go in, you figure, okay, I want this because it's got, you know, whatever its dimensions and whatever you're looking for. By the time you get to the lot, you've already decided what you're buying. So
that's where those magazines like Road and Track used to be perfect for that, for cars. Because you get all these reviews of these vehicles. But now all of that's on YouTube. They've got all their websites. Inside Motorcycles, I'm sure you guys do a lot of reviews in there. You've probably got them all on the website as well. So it's like those sort of reviews are huge for people, but you're getting those digitally now instead of...
Well, and I remember my dad, you know, he would go to the dealership, test drive a couple different cars, look at them, look at the interiors, and then he would order our car.
Right.
And they would say, it'll be here in about 3 months. And you waited for your new car to show up. nobody waits for a new car anymore. I mean,
Unless they have to, just parts aren't here.
Yeah.
I want it now, right?
No comment.
That is interesting that with inventory levels and everything, we certainly are back to that, where it's going to take time for your new car to come in.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
it's interesting how it's come around. Patrick, you mentioned that the shows did not evolve.
Yep.
And it's something I've been thinking about a lot with hard copy magazines. Did the magazines miss the boat? Did they miss the
Did they stop
opportunity
evolving?
to evolve? And Luke, you mentioned virtual reality. We've talked a little bit about augmented reality, which is kind of halfway between
Right.
nothing and
mix of
virtual.
real, yeah.
And Lamborghini's been using augmented reality. IKEA uses some augmented reality. I've always thought, why couldn't you open the magazine and with your tablet scan a page that then brings up a bike that you can look around with your tablet? It almost becomes, magazines are mostly information, a little bit of entertainment. Going into the augmented reality world makes them a lot more entertainment.
Right. I think my argument for that would be, what do you need the magazine for? That from a business standpoint, that magazine would almost be a waste of money because you can provide that entire experience online.
However, what I'm hearing, and you and I both listened to Jace on Fast Life Garage.
Yeah.
And I think it's Fast Life Garage. Anyway, they were talking, and they're younger guys. They're your age, and they were talking about how much they enjoy hard copy magazine.
Yeah, I was gonna chime
the
in.
Kickstart show this year, Ill Fated, they went ahead and made their own magazine,
Right.
which by the way is awesome. Great recap of the Kickstart show. So there's certainly a demographic, a market for a hard copy magazine.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking if it was better, if it did more for you, that would make it even more attractive.
Maybe more
I
appealing.
think hard copy, and you said before there is a place for it, but it's stuff like this, because this is beautiful. Like, this is a coffee table
And that's a
book.
one-off.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is something you throw on your coffee table and people
Right.
come over.
When I think magazine, I think coffee table, I think doctor.
Yeah,
office.
and that's like high quality, good paper, good photography,
Yeah.
engaging writing. There's always going to be a place for that. But the stuff you're talking about, like GQ's been doing it in their digital edition forever. You're reading a story, and all of a sudden, there's like click here, and suddenly there's a video, or there's additional photo galleries or whatever, and it's brilliant the way they do it. But I think paper has a really specific place, and when we do go to bike shows and people go, they love that we print. They love it. I mean, unfortunately, subscriptions don't pay the bills. Advertising does.
Right.
Yeah.
But people love print. They love they can throw it in their garage or whatever. But for me, this is where I see the future, is like those high quality, one of kind of products.
Right.
Something that like you hold and you're proud of.
Yeah.
Because that's how I look at you gotta also remember how important it is to someone, because it would still even be important to me to have my bike in a magazine. To have that physical
that'd be
copy.
great, yeah.
So advertising, I could see the advertising world, you want analytics, you want to see how well it does. But I think you're right, Patrick. Magazines are always going to have a place on that aspect of that is someone's bike. They are proud of it, and people are going to look at that. And that also it becomes a piece of art.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's definitely a place. Like when we feature a bike, like I've done a couple of Bruce's bikes, or even when you feature a person, like when you do a profile about a young racer or whatever, those are the stories where you just gauged on the feedback that you get. Those are the ones that draw people's attention.
Yeah.
What we say about a new bike is kind of like,
It's almost like filler in a sense, and no offense, but it's like if say you did or Bruce had a written piece in a magazine about him, I'm reading that or I'm buying that magazine for that aspect because I know Bruce and I want to see what's written about it. Like I'm interested. It's something I'm going to keep, and like it's physical and I want to remember it, you know? So I think that's always going to be around.
When you said feedback on magazine, how do you measure feedback on a magazine? Or not even measure it, how do you notice it?
Sometimes it's based on the number of letters you get.
Yeah, I was going to say.
People are still sending you letters?
Oh yeah, it's
Like,
amazing.
people who like magazines, I feel like they're the type of people who still like to write their to-do list with a pen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that.
There's people who have like a certain like stubbornness to join.
New things.
Is there another way to do a to-do list?
You got an iPad right there.
Joined us in our digital age.
There definitely is. There's letters. There's also just what you sell on the newsstands.
Right.
I mean, like, Inside Motorcycles is the #1 selling motorcycle magazine on newsstands
Crazy.
in Canada.
Sweet.
Like
Yeah.
it sells.
Crazy.
So I mean, from the publisher's point of view, because it's hard for them because to be there, you have to print so many copies,
Right.
and they only get paid for the ones that actually
Right.
sell.
So what happens to the ones you don't sell?
They go in the garbage.
Just
No
Yeah, they
way.
get
fire
recycled.
starters?
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you?
They're
how
easily
do you-
recycled.
Yeah, fair enough. I didn't even think of that.
How do you
though.
print the right amount?
Actually, you print for your subscribers, and then there's a company that distributes to all like chapters, Indigo,
Right.
shoppers.
Do they buy all of those copies from you?
Yeah, well, they don't buy them; they order them, and then
Yeah.
when people go into chapters and buy, that's
Then
what
you
they get paid for.
Right.
Oh no.
The rest of it just goes in, and that's why it's a tough slog. Being
So what happens if chapters ordering?
Well,
Let's say chapters ordering 50,000 across Canada.
Well, that'd be
Yeah.
awesome. First of all,
Right, we'll buffer down. Let's say they're ordering 20,000 across Canada,
okay.
Yeah.
and you're selling. Chapters is selling 15,000. Those 5,000 Insider Motorcycles doesn't get paid for.
Yeah, and honestly, and it's not just Inside Motorcycles, it's the magazine business in general. The ratio is
Wild.
probably way the other way. It's probably about 20% of what you print actually gets sold.
Wow.
Now, and then when you have a good
Can
issue
you
that comes
tell
out,
chapters to tone it down a bit? You
Really?
They-
still have to print them all.
they drive the boat. They say this is what.
So they can just run you dry.
Yep. I mean, unlike we sell in the airports and that,
Right.
and so I mean, it's a big,
Yeah, that's
it's a big expense.
I think that's hearing that, I think that's one of the only businesses that give out product, as far as I know, before it's bought. You know, because if I'm buying something in bulk,
Yep.
I'm buying it all. This is
Yeah.
mine.
Right.
And then, so then you would in turn get paid for what was
Yeah.
yours.
Like I would
Right.
think if
Yeah.
chapters is buying 20,000 Insider
Yeah,
Motorcycles,
then
they get
Patrick
paid
would be getting
20,000.
paid for 20,000, and then Chapters is trying to make another dollar on top. You know, that's wild.
so here's something that Patrick can elaborate on.
I noticed where you
And
turned to.
I don't know if you're aware, but this is huge in Canada.
Yes.
We support our media, our culture.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, that's why if you go to the U.S. right now, there is, I think, the only surviving paper, or actually even periodical magazine is Road Racer.
Okay.
Every other one, like Motorcyclist, which was the oldest magazine, they went to digital, and they were going to do like 4 times a year in print, and then that went away, and then the periodical went away, and then they just shut down.
Wow.
And the difference is that the Canadian government, and I don't know the exact number, but they pay a large percentage of the contributor cost, the photography, the printing, the postage. They cover so much of that in
Has
order
it
to
always
have
been that
community-
way? Or is it like, has there been any change since like the CRTC stuff? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I don't.
Right.
It's all about Canadian content, and
Yeah.
that's why every year.
Have you seen any changes in like the last, year since
No.
they've implemented that?
No, haven't
No.
been
Wow.
any changes, and I have to every year take whatever they tell me which issue, and I have to mark it up. And like if it was this one, I'd have to put a big F on the front for foreign. And you have to go through, and they need to see, and I don't know what the ratio is, but Canadian content has to be
Right.
the majority of the content. You're always going to have some foreign content because if you go to test a bike, wherever
Yeah,
the
and it's in a
photographers-
different place.
Does that
Yeah.
even like if you have to travel to the States to ride the bike and get all the photos of it and whatnot.
Yeah. So I'm Canadian content when I write it, but
Right.
like the photographer, if he's from the States, that's foreign content.
Oh.
So it's about, and it's no different when you go to the States. Like when I go to the border, you know, they say, where are you going? And I always say, I'm going to go ride a motorcycle, which always leads to a conversation.
Yeah.
And
True.
then when they figure out that you're working for a magazine, the very first question is the magazine sold in the US? Because if it was, I'm not getting through the border because I'm taking someone's job
In
down
the States,
there
right.
who could do it, but because I'm doing it for, so there's protection, if you will, on either side of the equation, but
Right.
Mhm.
the US does not sponsor or support
See,
that.
and I think this is a huge advantage, and I don't know, maybe it's my age, but I see great value in that because it's our culture. We're capturing our culture over time, and you know, in the motorcycle industry, and I don't know how to say this correctly. I'm not a politician, but you know, we have a lot of Sikh riders in this country now. And that is going to change the context of the motorcycle community. And do we want to capture that for historical purposes, culture purposes? This is how we do it. But without this, even with this, unfortunately, this magazine, the guy who owns it, runs it, whatever, has fallen off the turnip truck. He's, I don't know. Anyway,
Hopefully he doesn't
he had a
come
bad
back.
year. He had a bad year,
Do
so
you find
he's
this,
taking it out on us. But the other thing about this magazine, sorry, I just wanted to mention, because this one's published in French and English,
It has to be with that sticker.
there may be, I'm wondering if there's additional support in Quebec
I
because
would
it's
think
printed in
if
French.
it's endorsed in any way, shape, or form by the Canadian government, I would think that they would mandate that it be printed in both.
Doesn't have to
Because
be.
we have
This
the
one isn't.
same little sticker in here.
Do you
Somewhere.
find that, does this kind of stifle creativity at all? Like
Nope.
when you,
No, actually, it's just the only requirement is the Canadian content. So,
Right.
Oh wow.
you know, you need to have, and I mean, you can go through, like I literally do it every year. And when you mark it up, it has to be that the people for providing the majority of the content are Canadian. That's the only requirement. It's not about what the content is.
Right.
It's not. It's just truly making sure that you are supporting, for lack of a better word, Canadian art. So you're
Right.
supporting photographers and writers. And,
right,
Right. So don't tell the rest of the podcast community, but I'm looking into support
You need one of
for,
those stickers.
Canadian podcasting.
Exactly. Yeah, I was
And
just gonna
that's
ask
It's
that.
not just support for magazines. There is both from provincial and federal government support for websites. For like, there's a big Canada does a good job in that
right.
regard. So,
However, you do have to go digging for it because they don't
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
it real easy to find
they
it.
don't
Yeah.
advertise. Maybe they could take out an ad.
Well, and like on on that note, though, as Bruce was saying, for marketing and advertising for podcasts, the magazines and digital is so visual, and almost uses pictures to have a story behind them, right? So visual storytelling. Do you think that can be brought over into a podcast way? Whether, like, what are some of your ideas on that?
I think still images for podcasts would be a difficult way to promote it.
Yeah.
I think it's so much of podcasts is like context,
Yeah.
and I think you only get that with. I think clips are the way to go.
Yeah. So like on advertising through then
Through the
apps.
socials.
Yeah, socials.
And if you want to attract people to use a form of media that's on their phone,
Yeah.
the best way to find them would be on their phone.
Cool.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I like
Yeah.
that.
That being said, we did
I-
actually have a guy advertise his podcast in the
Really?
latest issue. Yeah.
Oh no way.
Nice.
How'd it go? I guess you
Well,
know.
Yeah,
it just went to print now. So
Oh, okay.
it went today to the printer.
How do we find out how that went?
Well, and again, you don't because it's
Let us know how chapter
I
6.
do have a selfish question for you. What do you think of the format that we're using where we're producing the podcast, no video, producing what I'm going to start calling tube casting, which is our YouTube deal, right? So we have our YouTube video, which is exactly the same soundtrack,
Right.
but with the video included.
Right.
What do you think of that strategy?
I think it's good. I think being on as many platforms as possible is just going to help you get seen more.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of big podcasts. There's one that I listen to from Australia. These guys are hilarious, but they do audio through kind of the iTunes and Spotify, and then they have a paid video. So they'll do it on Patreon, and that's how they're making some money.
Yeah.
So the people who have already engaged through social medias and through Spotify and through iTunes, now the people who really enjoy it, they're paying whatever, the $5 an episode to watch it on Patreon.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
Subscription.
platforms like Patreon are huge for that. But I think obviously you need to kind of have your foot in the door. You need to have an audience that's already committed to you
Oh,
before
absolutely.
you can find
Yeah.
people who are going to pay for it. But
That's down the road stuff for
Yeah.
sure.
yeah,
But
I
I
think
was
being
just,
on as many platforms as possible is only going to help you.
I've just been wondering if we're diluting it or
No,
or
I
if
think
it is
make
a
it as
good way
easy
to
as
go.
possible to find.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Instagram has brought us a big traction hit too. Like,
Yes.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
had a lot of like runs and views on our Instagram page.
Well, we got a great person doing the Instagram stuff too. She's brilliant.
True.
So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think
Well,
that's
she
a good
may
idea.
not be that smart now that I think about it.
I wonder who she is, man. Like,
Anyway,
Wow.
yeah,
Who are we talking
it's
about?
my wife. You gotta let Patrick in. Like, yeah,
Taylor does all our Instagram
right. Wife
stuff.
does all the advertising. That's
You're
awesome.
hot, Taylor.
Taylor was in charge.
Yeah,
Yes.
she was a
I
judge
know
of the
Taylor.
show.
Yes, she
There
was.
you go. You
Yeah. We use her as a visual. Like,
bring it back around.
all right.
You want me to fire this one
Yeah,
off?
yeah,
or are
have
you
at her.
okay?
I'm thinking about his wife.
So now I'm going to take you away from the advertising and the media side of it and what's happening with magazines and stuff. I'm going to bring you back to motorcycles. Because you guys know so much about the industry and everything, what's the next trend in motorcycles? We've seen
you gotta ask
the
the magazine guy for that.
FXR Dyna thing lately. Performance baggers have happened. There seems to be, sport bikes are definitely a solid, steady kind of platform. Choppers and bobbers, that old school stuff, it's holding its own. I might even, I have no numbers to prove it, but I might even guess that it's growing a little bit, but it's certainly holding its own. So what's next?
You must be in on all the trends.
I don't
You must have a
know. I
whole
mean,
team that
there's-
works on
well, it's-
what's next.
I mean, we were just at, it was a Royal Enfield launch I was at.
Yeah.
And first of all, they are probably the brand of any brands that's doing the most to try and target that new demographic.
Oh, no
like
way.
they push that they're hip. they really, like,
When you say new demographic, what is that?
that's like
What is that? to these
getting
brands?
that new people who are going to come in and actually start buying bikes.
Mm.
Because there is, like, my son-in-law is a great example. Like, we raised our kids, they had to learn how to drive a standard.
Mhm.
And our
It's a
I love
our,
that,
our
yeah.
daughter bought a standard, and so my wife took our son-in-law out to teach him how to drive.
Yeah.
Hopeless.
Really?
Because it's just like, it's like they call it, it's like that generation whatever lock kind
Right.
of thing.
Yeah, true.
So that's the demographic. You're trying to get them away from their PS5
Right.
and actually onto that bike and experience it. And as soon as you get them out there once, they're
Mhm.
hooked. But it's getting them to actually go like, hey, I want to try that. And
Yeah.
and so far, like Royal Enfield leaps and bounds ahead of how they're positioning themselves, how they're, like Harley is all about is Harley.
Yeah.
And they're marketing to riders.
Yeah.
How do
Royal
you,
Enfield's marketing to
No, go ahead.
to non-riders.
right.
You know, and that's a big.
That was going to be my question. So how do you think the progression of becoming a rider happens? Like, do you think it's someone like you who grew up with dirt bikes, or do you think it's the kid who has a dad who has a Harley? How do you think?
Oh, I think that's so personal.
Like, how do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that, like, cause me, it was my dad had a Harley, and I was
Right.
like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
or it's on.
Yeah.
For
You
me,
know?
I think it was opposite. My parents were like, "Don't ever get a bike." I
Yeah.
was like, "Sweet, let's get a bike."
Oh, true.
Yeah, I think,
So I
I
don't
think
know how that
it's exactly what you said. It's person to person. It's different. I mean, I did a profile on a kid in the latest issue who he just won his first Canadian Superbike race. But you know, he talked about his dad always had bikes. You know, his
Right.
dad had Ducatis and whatever, and so it was like a given that eventually it was gonna, I'm gonna go ride that bike.
Right. I
Yeah.
find that as a kid, if you're in a dirt bike, it's for sure because your dad got you into it.
Yeah.
And then I think those people, unless they have a crazy injury or something, they're likely to grow up in bikes.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, I wonder how you capitalize on that.
Yeah, no, it's a big, but there's this thing like, you know, like I have a 4-year-old grandson, and he comes out to the racetrack when
Right.
I'm there, and he's already going, you know, he goes home and he's got to get on his strider and start
Yeah.
practicing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's having some influence
Right.
wherever you get that influence from, kind of thing. You know, maybe Netflix can do something like the Formula One thing.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
that got everybody wanting to be a Formula One
Yeah.
driver.
True.
Maybe if they do a bike show, then
Fast
they'll
and
do
Furious made
Fast and
everyone.
Furious, everybody want to have underglow and shoot NOS, you know?
But when I went and did this, to go back to your thing about what's the next trend,
Yeah.
simplicity seems to be a big trend. Like,
Right.
you know,
Like
making
naked
bikes
bikes?
that are, naked bikes, but even like, you know, this one that we went and saw, that, when are you going to publish this? Because we're under embargo. But
You got 6 weeks.
Okay. So they built this shotgun 650.
Yeah.
And it's all about making it available for people to customize. So like, like Roland Sands took one and did a whole bunch of stuff
Cool.
with it. And
That
all-
is sweet.
But it's about like, it's a cool looking bike, but it's simple.
Yeah.
It's not like, and I've ridden, I think, pretty much every Harley.
Yeah.
But they're big and heavy. If you're my size, like, oh my God.
Hey, we're
You know,
big people.
These are like, this is a manageable bike, but it's cool. And so I think like, Harley's got the king of the baggers thing is driving it. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of people want that simple, cool bike
Right.
that maybe they don't have to customize, maybe they want to customize. I mean, there's a kid in our office who's looking for a bike and he wants something he can strip down and build kind
Oh, wow.
of thing. So there's a whole,
What about like, there's the people who are like glued to carbureted bikes. Like there's people still today who are like, I'm not going to get the
True,
fuel.
especially in the
Like,
stunt world.
How do these brands kind of tailor to them as well? And that's like the standard too. There's people who want to drive standard still, and
Yeah.
those cars are kind of being
Well,
phased
and
out.
you've seen that with Harley though. They did their hydraulic clutch because people didn't like how clutch felt, and then they were like, "Oh, that doesn't work. People want their clutch cable back," and then
Right.
they gave their clutch cable. So,
like
that's-
I'm the guy who wants the carburetor. Like
You are?
I just literally did a Suzuki DR 650. I did
Right.
a review of, and it's you're out in the mountains by yourself. And I felt comfortable because it has a carburetor. And if it
Right.
broke, I'd have a shot at actually getting it,
Yeah,
Right.
running
Yeah.
again. If
Yeah.
if
more
it's-
reliable.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if it was like a new KTM that's all fuel injected, just throw it over and
Right.
start hiking kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I
disconnect the
like-
battery, reconnect the battery, try again.
So
Just hope for the best.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's a way to get. I mean, first of all, just carburetors aren't. as
They're
good-
never coming back because they're not fuel economy.
Yeah, they're not
Yeah,
efficient.
yeah,
Oh,
they're
is that
not.
what
No, they're never going to come back. That's why Harley got rid of the Sportster, like the real Sportster, and then went water cooled, is because they had too small of an engine to make emissions for California, so they had to water cool it to create lower end and high end emissions
Don't give it
again.
to California.
No, everything.
They got it.
California has more people than Alberta does. Like, so that's why you see a lot of these brands changing. It wasn't because like, oh, we need more speed and power. It was because we can't make emissions. We need to change the Sportster platform.
Right.
So
The only other trend that I am seeing is there's a huge divergence. Everything's getting bigger or getting smaller.
oh wow.
You know, like KTM
Yes.
just came out with like this was the 1290, they just came out with the 1390. You know, BMW came out with the 1300 GS, but at the same
Right.
time, Kawasaki came out like with the Ninja 400 RR kind of thing.
Oh
So
yeah.
there's the whole middle ground. Like you can't even buy a 600cc bike anymore. Like
It's getting tougher and
you know,
tougher.
there's a real divergence between you got the bikes for the hardcore riders who are gonna, you know, ride hard, and then those guys who want like the urban commuting or they're new. To
Yeah,
riding.
like you said, hipster,
Yeah.
hipster-esque.
Yeah.
Like, I can see that trending.
Well,
right
and
now.
that little stuff, the Honda, what do they call that thing?
The Grom?
No,
Oh,
Compactico,
right.
which folds into a briefcase.
Oh, really?
Oh.
So you open it up and you're riding this briefcase-shaped thing with
Yeah, but
handlebars.
at that point, you don't
Like,
need
it
a
is-
bike license
It
for
is
that.
crazy. And, you know, we thought, when we saw it, we thought, no way. They've got them in California. They are selling them like crazy.
Really?
Yes.
People are
People
weird.
love them.
People are so weird.
So you're right. You got
Yeah.
both ends of the
But that is
spectrum.
there is a
and,
big divergence.
you know, meanwhile, 600cc, CBR 600RR, is that
Yeah.
what the
Yeah, that
model
doesn't
was?
really exist anymore.
Not in Canada yet.
No.
That's not available.
Yeah, like
That's
I rode
wild.
the Harleys now. 121 was the last one I rode. Like it's
Yeah, what are we up to
Yeah,
on the
I think
Harleys now?
120.
Yeah, it's 1900 and some
Yeah.
cc's.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
The CVOs that came out, they're getting crazy,
Yeah.
and then then now they involved VVT in them.
Yeah,
So now Harleys have variable valve timing.
and actually it works really good.
I'm sure it does, but awesome. Like
Yeah.
what? Like I don't know if you're really hitting like we were talking about earlier. I don't know really if you're hitting our demographic
Yeah.
anymore on variable valve timing, and I have to sit there at 4,000 and guys scream to 6,000. I'm just like yes. It's like reminding me of when I drove my Honda. You know, my little Honda Civic with VTEC. Like I don't know if that's really hitting it for people anymore.
Yeah.
But
Oh. Okay, got to change the battery. All right, sorry about that, everybody. Quick pit stop. We had to change a battery, but Patrick was just saying.
What was I saying?
You-
about the VVT.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
how you got to ride them.
Yeah, no, I reviewed it. I rode it for about a week and a half in Ontario. Now I'm not a V-twin guy, and again, they're
Take that
like
knife out of my
even
bag.
that one, like it went on a big diet. It lost about 40 pounds compared to the previous model,
Okay.
but it's still so heavy kind
Yeah.
of thing, and it's fine on the highway. You love it, but as soon as you're in like a parking lot, it's like, oh my, and it's nice and low, so you're still comfortable. But the engine, I really enjoyed. Like
Okay.
actually, the VVT, that variable valve works. Like because you can jump on it and there's no flat spots. Like it pulls all the way through because it retards or advances, so it works well. We were saying while Bruce was changing the battery about the screen.
Yeah.
It's a bit much.
Yeah, the
Like,
screens on them are
it's like
so
12
dumb.
inches kind of
So
thing.
dumb.
Like it's no, it's nice when because I'm terrible at directions, so I always need like a map to tell me, and you have no problem seeing it,
Yeah.
but it's almost to the point of being distracting.
Yeah, like
It
it,
is.
it takes away of the form of riding.
Yeah.
Like I have a 96 electric glide with a cassette player in it. You know what I do? I press play and I go. You know, and then you need to use a map. I'm just staring at. I'm getting lost.
You're
So like
following
we're on the road. You know, like bikes were never about like I need to get somewhere, read my map, and listen to my Apple Play, and hook up everything, and also reply to my wife, and then also get to dinner. Like
I'm bad 'cause I'm trying to find the middle ground on that bagger.
yeah, like and we come from diners with gauges. Like just give me a gauge, and give me like the road, and let me have fun.
But you were going to put a screen on the
I
back.
put your screen on the bagger.
Yeah.
That has Apple CarPlay.
Yeah,
So
I don't know if you like it, man.
I'll be
But I
able- I'll
mean,
be
you'll
able to
get the
text my
luxury.
iPhone.
You like driving a
I
car.
like it on the glide.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, we, no, it's okay. Hey, great conversation. We have a bunch more questions, so what I'm thinking is we might have to do this again.
Sweet.
Cool.
I'm into it.
Yeah.
Maybe we can arrange that.
Absolutely.
For now, we'll put that part of the conversation aside. Harrison is going to take his first shot at the rapid fire round.
Oh, don't put the
So the
pressure on
rapid
me,
fire round is just some very simple questions. Yes, no, one or the other, one-word answers. I think this time is actually a three-word answer, but we'll get to it.
Okay.
So Harrison is going to put it out there, and we want an answer from each of you, and we'll alternate. Patrick will go first on the first one, you'll go first on the second
Okay.
one. We'll do it that way and get through it.
Done, let's do
I'm
that.
already
Bring the
confused.
heat.
No, we're
Keep you on track.
All right. Okay, so Patrick, turkey or ham?
Ham.
Turkey.
Oh, good call. All right, Luke, flip-flops or sneakers?
Flips.
Yeah.
Flip-flops.
Nice.
You gotta keep prepared in salad bags. though.
Yeah. But these
Never
are
know
my
where
type
you're
of
gonna end
people. All right, Patrick, when are you most productive?
In the morning.
Morning.
Luke? Yeah? All
Morning or
right.
late night. No in between.
No in between.
I'm dead.
One or the other, eh? All right. Luke, favorite pizza topping?
Bacon and banana pepper.
Ooh, classy.
Plain cheese.
No way.
Yeah.
Right on. I like it.
Wow.
All right, Patrick, describe yourself in 3 words.
What's that? Those two? No. Jeez, can I think about
Yeah,
that?
yeah, you can have a minute.
Wow. My wife would say annoying.
Nice.
Driven. I have no idea. Can I go with 2 words?
Yeah, you can think about the 3rd one. Luke?
Motivated, fun-loving, social.
Oh, wow. You had the time to think
Well,
about
that's
it. Yeah.
good, yeah.
Yeah, all
I
right.
had the time.
Did
I
you
didn't
come
feel
up
as
with a
much.
No, I
third?
didn't
No,
know.
okay.
That was a good question.
Yeah, let us
Geez,
know.
that's annoying.
Luke, if you could have any motorcycle, what would it be? Any.
Can I have the 2 I have now?
No.
Pretty happy with those.
See, now Patrick's
I
going to
know,
have a
I'm
good
thinking
answer.
really
Yeah.
quick.
The 2015 Road Glide, it's in a precision showroom right now.
Ooh, I like it. That bike is dirty.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. Nasty
That's
bike.
unreal.
Yeah.
Patrick?
Patrick?
Honda RC51, just because it's a classic sport bike. It's one Nicky Hayden rode. That'd be it.
All right, I love it. I love it. Patrick, permission or forgiveness?
Forgiveness.
Luke?
Ask later.
Yeah.
Do what you're gonna do.
All right. I love it. Luke, where would you like to visit the most? It could be a place that you've already been.
I'd like to go back to Oregon. It was beautiful this summer.
Out of the whole world, you're going to Oregon?
I'm just riding that coast.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. All right.
Europe.
See, I love that answer.
What was it?
Europe.
Picks the continent? I'll take both of them.
Patrick's parachuting out of the plane.
Where are we gonna land, boys?
Patrick, spokes or mags?
Oh. I love spokes. So spokes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
Next.
I love it.
Ooh.
I'm a mags guy too.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, young guys.
Luke, what is your hidden talent?
Cooking.
Oh, romantic.
Time. I can always know exactly what time it is.
All
What
right.
time to...
It's about 7:30.
No, he's right.
No, he's not.
He's 7:40.
Ah, my phone's dead.
Loser. Luke or Patrick, toilet paper over or under?
Oh, over. Always over.
All day.
I'm trying to think of how that question even works.
Over. Like on the roll?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gotta come
Oh,
over.
I thought he meant over or under.
No, it's like when it's on the roll, does it come over or under?
Yeah, it's definitely over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only way you go under is if you got a cat. They fuck
Why?
around with the toilet roll all the time.
Oh,
Okay.
I would have no idea. All right, Luke, beach or mountains?
Beach.
And Patrick,
Mountains.
that's a good way of clearing
There
it
you
up.
go.
50-50 either way.
Right
If the
on.
beach is hot, you can ride on. You can ride where it's hot.
Yeah.
Mountains, a lot of
Not,
snow.
not
can't
hot,
ride.
snow, rain.
There you go.
But windy roads, beaches are just going to be straight.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Tarps off, bagger.
9-inch screen. Yeah, 9-inch screen. Like Apple CarPlay.
Yeah.
All the important stuff.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
That's
Thank
fun.
you.
Yeah, it was okay. It was okay. Next time we'll try and get it a little bit warmer in here, but not bad. Yeah, thank goodness we set up over here.
Yeah.
It
So
was
we're
good over
close to
here.
the fireplace.
I'm freezing.
Anyway, really good. For those of you listening and or watching, don't forget we're on all the major podcast platforms. We're on YouTube. We're on Instagram. Like, subscribe. I think we might be on Threads now too. Not that anybody else is. So yeah, let us know what you think. Thank you for being here. We'll see you again soon.
It's a wrap.
That was fun.
That was
a lot of fun.
Really fun.
That worked out okay?
Everybody out here. That got pretty fun at the end, I gotta say.
Whole thing.